Hey, all right, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Another episode of Heal Thyself. As always, thank you for joining, taking the time out of your day. I want to tell you about today's show because I'm so excited about how amazing it's going to be. A lot of us really run away from the topic of death. And if you feel it in your body about today's knowledge bomb being about death, then lean into it because it may be the episode that you need more than anyone. Super important episode with a lot of truth bombs in here, okay? For us to learn how to have a better relationship with death such that we can have a deeper relationship with ourselves and our lives. So important. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about death, my experience with it, other societies' experiences with it, and how we can come closer to a better understanding and release some of the anxiety of the inevitable. Everyone will be affected by death, and we will be affected one day personally. If you feel morbidity in your body and you don't want to hear it, lean into it and check this episode out. And very special guest we have today, Dr. Amy B. Killen is one of the most highly sought after longevity doctors in the country. She's over in Utah. She's going to talk about stem cells, PRP, hormones, sexual health, skin health, and overall longevity. So how we can live longer and feel better in our bodies. And she's an amazing, down-to-earth, super sweet person. So I'm really excited to talk to her. So let us get to the show. Before we do, I just want to say a little bit of words from our sponsors. If you need better sleep, energy, you need to feel calmer, your mood is all over the place, you may need to supplement magnesium. Magnesium is extremely depleted in so many of us. At least 75% of us are deficient. The deficiency can lead to higher levels of anxiety, irritability, trouble sleeping, low energy. I know a lot of you are resonating with this part. And it can even create spasms in your muscles all throughout your body. Now, the problem is most magnesiums that you're going to buy on a store shelf have really poor quality magnesium. Synthetic, usually just 2 sources, and you want a full spectrum to be hitting all systems of your body. Why? Well, magnesium is involved in over 300 chemical processes in the body. So it's super important when it comes to your muscle health, brain health, hormone health, energy conversion in the body. Every single part of your body needs magnesium. So when you're getting a full spectrum magnesium like Bio Optimizer's Magnesium Breakthrough, you're going to be hitting all of these systems in the body, increasing absorbability, making sure your whole body is benefiting from all these different forms. So you may find then you're getting better sleep. You have more energy, stronger bones, healthier blood pressure, less irritability. You're calmer overall. You have a reduction in muscle cramping and you're going to get fewer migraines. That's because magnesium is so important. And for me, it's one of the most important minerals out there and it's one that I take every single day. So the way that I take it is 2 capsules before bed, have the Himalayan salt lamp on, maybe I'll journal, maybe I'll stretch, maybe I'll shower. But I know by the time I get into bed, I'm feeling relaxed, my nervous system is calm, and I'm falling asleep fast. I'm getting into a deep sleep, and I'm waking up refreshed. So check it out, exclusive offer to all the Heal Thyself listeners. Go to magbreakthrough.com/DRG and use the code DRG10 during checkout. You're gonna save 10% and free shipping. All right, one of our newest partners, Athletic Greens, amazing green powder out there. Super important. I take this every morning with my breakfast. I started taking it because a lot of times I'm on the go. So it's hard for me to, say, make a salad. So what I do is I utilize Athletic Greens, and I've been using it for about a month and a half now. And what I like most, aside from the 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source, superfoods, probiotics, adaptogens, it's chock full of all of that good stuff. It actually tastes good. I've tried a lot of green powders in my life, and a lot of them have an earthy or grassy taste. The Athletic Greens has a mild tropical taste that I'll mix up with some fruit or water or almond milk, and it's part of my morning ritual. Other part of it that I really love contains less than 1 gram of sugar, no GMOs, no nasty chemicals or artificials or anything, and it tastes good. It supports better sleep quality and recovery and also supports mental health clarity and alertness. And so for me, health is all about micro habit decisions. And every morning I'm having a cup of Athletic Greens, knowing that it compounds every single day and pushes me towards better overall health. Now, I only partner with brands I truly believe in. You know this. As far as brand integrity, it's the highest #1 criteria for anyone that works on this show. Athletic Greens is one of them, and they're a great company focused on sustainability. For one, they are a climate neutral certified company. In 2020, they purchased carbon credits that support projects protecting old growth rainforests. And additionally, for every purchase, they donate to organizations helping to get nutritious foods to kids in need, including No Kid Hungry here in the United States, And in 2020, Athletic Greens donated over 1.2 million meals to kids. Super, super important. Giving back to the community and society is one of the most important criteria that we look for in sponsors. So right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition, especially heading into the blues of winter. All you need is 1 scoop of Athletic Greens in the water every single day. That's it. That's what I do. And you're going to get that chock full of nutrients to start your day out. So to make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you got to do is visit athleticgreens.com/healthyself. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/healthyself to take ownership over your health and pick the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. Athletic Greens every single day, every morning. I love it. All right, everyone, when it comes to the topic of death, I have a lot to say. Now, as I mentioned in the intro, if you're really feeling some sort of way about listening or even facing a knowledge bomb about death, you can ask yourself, how do you feel about the concept of death? How do you feel about your relationship with death? How do you feel about the inevitability that we're all going to die someday? So, if anything, my hope is that this knowledge bomb helps you face a few things, right? Because the point of it is for us to live in a really healthy, fruitful, deep, loving relationship with life. All right, I want to start off with my favorite quote from one of my favorite books called Conversations with God. And it's about death. Use the illusion of death. Do not become it. Use it to open to life. The flower that dies is part of a whole tree that is changing and will soon bear fruit. The blossoming and falling away of the flower is a sign that the tree is ready to bear fruits. We are not the flower, nor the fruit. We are the tree, a tree with roots embedded in God. Now, however you want to use the word God, you can use it as an omnipotent force, nature, the universe, whatever it is, it's interchangeable. The point is that we are bigger and more profound than we can ever conceptualize. So the important topic today, we run away from talking about death, and granted, it's how we are raised. Death is a taboo in our society, and as a result, we're so poorly equipped to deal with loss. And even more tragically, poorly equipped to live our life to the fullest. I mentioned how we are raised, and it's much of modern culture. How many times have you been stopped from questioning your own mortality by a loved one? Oh, no, don't talk about that. Or no, don't say that. You're healthy, you'll be fine. Or this is too heavy to talk about. Let's talk about something else. Well, what we are reflecting to each other is our own fear of the unknown. And my goal for this episode is for you to lean into death. Remove that taboo and see that moment as it is, a true gift. So when it comes to my experience, let me paint this picture. And it might resonate with some of you because cancer is rampant. There are so many people who are suffering with cancer. So many of you will understand this experience. But let me paint this picture because I really want to talk about death with dignity. So I saw my mom in 4 months degrade from someone recovering from cancer, still underweight, but seemingly getting better, degraded to skin and bones, with a tube in her throat to keep her from choking on her own saliva, and a nasal cannula to feed oxygen to a failing respiratory system. A pre-hospice feeding tube surgically placed in her stomach when her esophagus decided to stop working so she couldn't swallow food. And she lay unrecognizable in a hospital bed under fluorescent lights with that disjointed symphony of hospital machine buzzes and beeps. And outside the room, there's a half-full parking lot and a busy New Jersey highway. Do you see the picture I'm painting? This is the setting of my mom's death. And no one's to blame. This is how most of us die in hospitals. According to a Stanford University study, 80% of Americans would prefer to die at home, if possible. But despite this, 60% of Americans die in acute care hospitals, 20% in nursing homes, and only 20% at home. And like so many of us have experienced, our loved ones are dying without any dignity. This is not death. This is us in medicine, although admirable in our teachings to save lives and not allowing the inevitable till the very last minute, we sacrifice the integrity of death for saying we tried everything. The irony, it was over before we even began intervening. So we in modern society do death in a way that isn't serving those making the transition and our families. Just think, there's other societies that face the concept or idea of death every year, such that when the day comes, they've prepared themselves with a better relationship. Think about it, many Latin countries face death through a festival. The Day of the Dead, I'm sure you heard of it, Dia de los Muertos, is a holiday to accept death as part of life. And we Latinos believe that a person's essence or soul is infinite. it can always be contacted or accessed. The Day of the Dead is how these cultures pay tribute to those who have passed onto their true form. And it's 3 days of recognition and celebration. As you may have seen, there's parades, devotion altars, candles, costumes, flowers, dancing, remembrances, candies, celebratory dishes, and most importantly, community and celebrations of the person through storytelling. Now imagine a child, all of their life, being exposed every year to the remembrance and celebration of death. Imagine if and when that child's time or adult's time comes, how their experience is different from our experience when we look at it as such a taboo. In Japan, there is the Oban Festival, another festival over several days in celebration of our ancestors. And the homes are dressed, the altars are made, grave sites are visited, and they dance and honor the dead, and people spend quality time together, again, in remembrance. Some towns in Japan are lit up with lanterns everywhere, so to illuminate for the dead. Some towns create bonfires. It's very popular because, like they did with Dia de los Muertos, this creates more community and facing the concept of death, as well as bonding with family, and brings light to those that may have been forgotten. In Brazil, Dia de los Finados is a holiday, a national holiday, where the country stops everything, takes time to visit loved ones, grave sites, and reflect on death. Colombia, Peru also have similar festivals. And if I remember correctly, in my young mind, I believe I attended something like this in Ecuador as a child. It's not just Latin America, though. Europe does it too. Poland and Ireland have very specific rituals. Almost every country in Africa has their own ritual and celebration of death. Muslim countries have very specific traditions. China even has a tomb sweeping day where you go and visit the tomb of a loved one, pay your respects, and tend to the area of where they're buried. South Korea, they have the Chuseok festival, which is like Thanksgiving to them, but then they set up a table for their ancestors and pay respects every single year. You see what I'm trying to say? There's countries around the world that have made peace, at least tried to make peace with death, so that when our time comes, we have found peace within it. Now, the fear of the unspeakable contracts so many of us, and this contraction creates hesitancy and feeling unsafe. But aren't we so attracted to the people who are living in the full expanse of themselves, right? Not coincidentally, many of these people have made peace with death, which ironically has allowed them to live fully, authentically, and in the moment. To me, the biggest tragedy in life is not allowing yourself to experience the depth of the moment, of your emotions, and the people you meet. So much of this protection is because we fear the ultimate unknown, which is death. Now, if you're listening to this podcast episode, it's likely you've already experienced death, right? Maybe a grandfather, maybe a grandmother, maybe another loved one. Maybe in your immediate family, you felt the pain of losing a sibling or a mom or a dad. But if you haven't, it's coming. It will likely come in your lifetime. And feel into that statement of knowing that there is an inevitable happening. And it baffles me, it always has, why we bring up our own or someone else's mortality and it's so poorly received. Because now is the time not to turn our back on the inevitable. It is as if we're exposing a prohibitive subject and quickly people are sweeping it under the rug, so we hide and turn our backs on a very inevitable experience. Now listen closely. For us to live life fully, we need to make peace with death. We need not only accept the inevitable for us, but for our loved ones as well. We're doing a major disservice to our human experience when we force those conversations back in the closet, because death is a truth. There's no disproving death and your own mortality. And our lives cannot be fully celebrated until we celebrate death. You cannot love life and fear death. We must do both. And the moment we understand that death is simply an end to this creation and a return to who you are, then you'll realize death is not death. It's a continuation of life. It is the opening of a door, not the closing of one. And that death is an illusion. Why? Because you truly are life itself, and life cannot not be. Death is simply a continuation of that. The illusion is you, that which you think you are. The illusion is the body, but you are forever, my friends. And I'm going to bookend this and leave you with a beautiful resonant quote from one of my favorite books again, Conversations with God. The happiest moment of your life will be the moment it ends. That's because it doesn't end, but only goes on in ways so magnificent, so full of peace and wisdom and joy, as to make it difficult to describe and impossible for you to comprehend. That's one of my favorite quotes. And I leave you with this: there's no reason to fear death, and there's every reason to celebrate it. So let's lean into it and start expanding the depth of our relationship with death and life. All right, without further ado, let us get to this interview with Dr. Amy B. Killen. So excited to talk to her about all things longevity, all things really feeling good in your body, skin, hormones, sex, and just living longer and healthier. Let's get to this interview. You know, I'm always excited to talk about NED. It's my favorite CBD out there. It's useful in combating stress, sleeplessness, anxiety, pain. The CBD market is extremely saturated over the past few years. It was a massive investigation that found most CBDs are really poor quality when it comes to purity, when it comes to effectiveness. So be careful where you buy your CBD because just like low quality alcohol, low quality CBD can have really undesired effects. So NED is a USDA certified organic product. All of NED's full spectrum hemp oil is extracted from USDA certified organic hemp plants, and it's grown by an independent farmer. His name's Jonathan. He's from Paonia, Colorado. You can see him on the website. These products are science-backed, nature-based solutions that are going to do right by your body overall. I want to talk specifically about NED's incredible brand new product. It's been in development for over a year. I've been using it for about a month now. It's a de-stress blend. This is a 1-to-1 formula of CBD to CBG. It's made from the world's purest full-spectrum hemp and features a botanical infusion of ashwagandha, cardamom, and cinnamon. Again, it's USDA certified organic, so you know I love this product. Now, the delicious taste of the de-stress blend is thanks to the botanical infusion of cinnamon and cardamom. Cinnamon is a powerful prebiotic that supports your gut health and a key player in your mental health because we know gut and mental health are intimately tied together. And cardamom combats stress by helping reduce your blood pressure and cortisol levels. NED is fully transparent. Go on the website. They share all their third-party reports, who farms their products, their extraction process are all right there in front of you. If you'd like to give NED a try, Heal Thyself listeners are going to get 15% off of the NED products with the code DRG. Go to helloned.com/DRG to get full access. That's HELLONED.com/DRG. And you're going to get 15% off. Thank you, NED, for sponsoring the show. And as always, offering our listeners an amazing natural remedy for so many common health issues. All right, everyone. What a special guest we have today. She came all the way to LA, I like to believe, to do the show, even though she had many other things to do, including important meetings, way more important than the show. Dr. Amy Killen is an integrative and regenerative physician, and she is doing some of the most amazing stuff. When I met her a few years ago and I heard about what she's doing in her practice, I was blown away that I have access and a key to someone so I never age. So I stay young forever, at least healthy and physically strong in my body. So welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Yeah, I want to tell a story. We met in Las Vegas at a conference.
Yes.
And it was like my first time I ever went to the A4M conference. And it's like a scene, especially when you go to the different booths from the vendors. It's crazy. There's so many people selling so many biohacks.
Yeah.
And I was taking all of these tests, and I know you did the one with the brain scan, testing how fast my brain, the Wavi is working, and you had this mask on, and we were spinning around, and I was like, this is crazy because for me, naturopathically was just like set on herbs and some like natural medicine, just however all these different modalities. But like all of a sudden, I got introduced to biohacking, and then I learned about you. And then you're keeping all the biohackers young. You got all the secrets. You got all the secrets. But then you're just a super cool person. I remember we enjoyed the same type of music. We connected really well. And I'm so happy to have you on the show. It's been a while. COVID set us back for a while.
It did. Yeah, I'm excited to be here. This is going to be fun. We had a very good time on the dance floor. If you remember.
We did.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I think we closed that place down.
Okay. I'm going to tell the audience. Little do they know, Amy gets down. We were there till like 4 or 5 in the morning at Tao, just dancing. We were just dancing.
I know.
And for me, I don't even think there was any salsa music, and I was dancing salsa music.
You were. Yes.
I was in my Latin flavor.
That. Yeah, you were. Because I remember trying to dance salsa and I wasn't able to do it.
But it was okay.
Pretended. Yeah.
But it was okay. Yeah. So we were having a great time. But I guess I know you were an emergency room physician.
Yeah.
How long ago was that? What were you doing? And what was the moment where you were like, I kind of don't want to do this anymore?
So that was 8 years ago that I stopped. So I was in ER for 10 years. I was, emergency medicine residency, and then 7 more years. Towards the end of that, I have 3 kids. So I had twins, then I had another kid within 2 years. And then I was back to work at this crazy shift that started at 4 in the morning.
Whoa.
And my husband had moved out of state at the time. So I was sort of like single parenting, getting up at 3 in the morning, taking care of 3 kids, and working in like this crazy environment. And I started just becoming like chronically, stressed and sleep deprived and not eating well and not exercising and always in a bad mood, and as you would imagine. And I started kind of noticing that my ER patients, like half of them were suffering from the same things. Like they would come in because of like toe pain, but it turns out that their issues were really not the toe pain. It was like their lifestyle and their stress and all these things. And so it just hit me one day, like I can't really help them until I help myself, and I can't help myself until I leave this environment and learn some new stuff. So I went through several years of just kind of teaching myself and going through courses and things, and eventually got out and started doing integrative medicine and eventually regenerative medicine as well.
Whoa. So it was really your patients that gave you the gift of looking, and you go, whoa, like these are some of the sickest people who are coming into this with emergent situations, coming into this clinic.
Yeah.
But they're really living like the standard American.
Absolutely. And they would come in with, most of the things that come into the ER aren't emergencies, but even the ones that are emergencies, a lot of them are, because of lifestyle choices and such. And so I just started kind of seeing myself in 10 years or 20 years. If I didn't change something, I'm like, I'm going to be that person who's coming in with, chest pain. And so I just was like, I can't do this to myself.
So what is the lifestyle of an emergency room physician?
Oh my gosh. It is, well, the shifts are all variable. So you're never getting, you never really have a normal circadian rhythm, right? You're working nights, evenings, weekends. My shift that I worked actually was mostly a 4 a.m. to 2 o'clock shift. So you get up at 3, you go to work. There's no downtime at work. Like I would go 10 to 12 hours and never go to the bathroom. And I would drink, 5 Diet Cokes and 2 Monsters during that time. And you just are so busy, you can't sit down.
Yeah.
So it's super high stress, and then just lack of sleep. So it's just, you're always on the go. It's fun, it was fun.
Yeah.
But after a while, it's not as fun.
Now you mentioned the circadian rhythm. How important was that in your health? And it being in balance, how was that affecting you?
I didn't know how amazing sleep could be until after I got out of the ER. Because I hadn't slept, really normal job hours in 10, 15 years. Sleep is so important. And I think it's the biggest thing, changing my sleep, I think more than anything else, more than diet, more than exercise, more than anything else that I did, being able to actually sleep 8 hours every night, completely changed everything about me.
Same.
Yeah.
Same. I'm telling you, I've always eaten really healthy for a long time. And working out really helps. But it doesn't touch sleep. It doesn't touch sleep.
No.
It's like, if I don't sleep well, I ain't gonna work out well.
Yeah.
And my stress is gonna be high. I'm not gonna eat well.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna even have the energy to make all the food that I usually do. And the sleep is the biggest game changer. I noticed for many years, so I got sick with mold in 2019, and it messed up my circadian rhythm. I was up till 2 a.m. every night, 3 a.m., and then I was going to sleep and waking up at 10. And I couldn't help it. It was really, really tough for me. Once I found myself finally regulating that and getting to bed 10, my brain was sharper. I was so much more creative. My mood, my assistant's outside right now, she will tell you Christian changed in the past 2 years when I started healing from the mold, because it was I was so just overwhelmed and frustrated all the time. But
Yeah.
I can't, if someone's sick, they're what's the best supplement to take? I go to sleep.
It's so funny, after I had my twins, I went back to I was kind of going crazy because I had twins and ER, and I was still working full time. And with twins, you don't sleep anyway. And I was sleeping 2 to 3 hours a day total, in little sections. It was awful. But I was going kind of crazy, so I decided to go to the gym and start working out. And I got a trainer, and I meet this trainer, and we start working out. And after a few sessions, she was like, I think if you would sleep more, then you would have better results at the gym. And I was like, but you don't understand. I don't have enough hours in the day to sleep. So I can either come here and train, or I can sleep. And she was like, yeah, you should sleep.
Whoa, powerful from a trainer. She's got a vested interest in you coming.
Right. She was like, you should sleep. And then once you're getting enough sleep, we can train, because
Yeah.
otherwise it's not going to do you any good.
But it makes so much sense because one, it's part of the culture at work, and you said it was fun. It's something that you like doing, right? And then on top of that, you got to take care of kids. So it just makes sense that you're in a position where sleep all of a sudden gets a back seat.
Oh, yeah.
And we all put sleep on the back seat, you know, like even me, sometimes socially, I'm like, oh, I'll spend another hour here and I'll like sleep 7 hours. And then the whole next day I'm moody or like
Yeah.
tired or exhausted. But how can we start really prioritizing sleep? What is something like let's say I came into your office and you do all of this amazing stuff that we're going to get into with me, but then I go, Doc, like I just want to sleep better. What are some of the things I should be doing?
I mean, some simple things like, avoiding your screens for 2 hours before bedtime, TVs, phones, all those kind of things. The blue light blockers can help because blue light's going to disrupt melatonin production. Taking a warm bath or doing like a sauna or something before bed can be helpful because the cooling of your body afterwards actually can trigger melatonin production. Avoiding stimulants after, lunchtime-ish, depending on kind of how fast you metabolize things like caffeine.
Yeah.
A big one that I discovered for myself is avoiding alcohol in that like 2 hours before bed. And if I'm going to drink alcohol, only drinking like 1 or 2 drinks, because you want to have alcohol fully metabolized before you go to sleep. You don't want to pass out, right? Like you want to
Right.
actually go to sleep. And that's a big one because a lot of people will drink alcohol and then go to bed and then they wake up, 3 hours later and they're like wide awake. So those are all kind of some things you can do.
And that's a myth because some people are like, no, I drink and I pass out, but you never get into a deep sleep.
Right.
Dr. Michael Bruce, do you know who that is? He talks about sleep all
Yeah.
the time. I was at one of his talks somewhere here, and he was talking, and he goes, alcohol, happy hour, comes from really the way we metabolize alcohol, and our alcohol dehydrogenase is most active in that period of happy hour.
Oh, interesting.
Whereas, like, for most people, chronotypes, but whereas if it starts getting later, that enzyme is taking a break, and we're not metabolizing it as fast. So, in essence, what he was saying is, if you drink earlier in the day, but don't drink past happy hour, which is...
That's interesting.
Most people
Yeah.
don't. Most people go out to dinner, they have wine.
Right.
But it's worth, like, I always tell people, it's worth, like, thinking about. Think if you have alcohol at night, let's say you have some wine, see how you sleep, versus if you just stop at, like, 5:30,
Yeah.
6 o'clock.
Yeah.
And it's all the enzyme activity.
Yeah.
Wild, right?
I love that. That's
Yeah,
really cool.
a little hack. Okay, so you're at the ER, and then you see your patients presenting in a very specific type of way that mirrored yourself, and you go, I got to make a change. So you took an integrative course?
So I went through A4M's,
Oh, yeah.
Anti-Aging and Regenerative Medicine kind of fellowship program, which is about a year-long program. I went through a bunch of other kind of hormone training courses, Synergenics course, and Rousier's course. There's all these different sort of thoughts on hormone optimization. And so I went through a bunch of hormone courses. And then I eventually, when I felt ready, I moved to Portland randomly from Austin and opened a kind of a bioidentical hormone clinic. And that was my first kind of foray into this space, is just helping people with their hormones.
Yeah. How many women in particular, right? Because the majority of this audience is women. How many women, and for us fellas too, I want to know, are we suffering with hormonal issues?
I mean, most women over the age of 35 or 40 have something going on. Not all of them. Low thyroid gets much more common as we get older. Certainly, kind of premenopause, that perimenopause, which is 10 years or so before actual menopause, we start seeing low testosterone and progesterone gets low and estrogen gets too high. And then of course, after menopause, everyone has hormonal problems. And then with men, it used to be men over 40. We started saying if you're over 40, your testosterone's probably a little low.
Yeah.
But I'm seeing men now in their, mid-20s, 30, that already have low testosterone, which is, it's become this epidemic.
Yes.
Yeah.
I part of my work has been like environmental toxins.
Yes.
What the heck is the role and how bad is it? And then this was like years already, I've been looking into it, and it's gotten worse. It's gotten worse and worse, like even from the fertility aspect. And I know
Right.
you work with a lot of sex and fertility, but like that blew me away. I was like, no wonder men younger and younger are losing their vitality.
Right.
In essence, would
Yeah.
you agree that environmental toxins plays a massive role?
Yeah, I think environmental toxins. I also think just lifestyle, the prevalence of obesity and diabetes and stress is another big one. Toxins, also just kind of how we're not lifting heavy weights, we're not working out, we're
Right.
not, like all of those things will increase testosterone. And then, our diets don't have a lot of the nutrients that we need. We aren't getting as much sun as we need to.
And sleep. Our sleep is
vitamin D,
messed
Our
up.
sleep is messed up. And sleep is when testosterone is made
Yeah.
for the most part. So I think it's all of those things that are working together.
But it's crazy because you think about all of the things. Let's just testosterone for an example, but it could be also with estrogen or other hormones. You just mentioned, like, in many ways, getting back to nature, right? Sun, circadian rhythm, good sleep, eating good quality food closest to your nature, movement, lifting stuff, whether it's weights or a rock or something.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Walking, like, these are all things, if your testosterone's off, so many of us look, and when I was in practice, I go, Dr. G, what's the best supplement for my testosterone? I want it now.
Right.
I don't care about the price. And I'm like, the best supplement is sleep. Go to sleep. You know what I
Right,
mean?
right.
Like get off your blue light. Start moving. Start eating more dense, nutritious food. But we lose it.
Yeah.
We lose our touch with nature. And we have a modernized society, and I'm not telling everyone to do this, but part of my passion is I ask people, how do we get back in touch with nature? A lot of the people that we see, I at least when I was in practice, are just so out of touch with it.
Yeah.
Do you see that a lot?
I do, and that's really, like, I love nature so much. I'm a total nature girl. I live in the mountains in Utah.
Beautiful. I see your Instagram stories, by the way.
I go on a lot
I've been
of
meaning
hikes.
to visit. Like, it's so beautiful
You should
out
come
there,
visit.
man.
It's so pretty. But that's like the main thing that I do if I'm stressed out, if I'm sad, if I feel blah, like I'm just like, you know what? I need to get outside. And it's amazing how good just being outside, like in the forest, feels. Like it does something.
What does it do to you?
It calms me. It also gives me good ideas. Like I'll do some of my best writing while I'm hiking. Like I'll just turn off, any music or anything and just be walking. I'll talk to myself on the trail, which people think I'm a little crazy. And I'll just, a lot of my talks and speeches and things that I do, like I came up with them while I was walking, because that's when my brain is turned on.
Same. I'm working on a book, and guess what? I do a walk every morning, and on the way back, I walk like right on the shoreline, and they just start flowing. I was like, why don't I talk about this? I was like, no one's talking about this.
It's a thing. It's definitely a thing.
I think it was Einstein. I was reading years ago that he had said the best ideas come from no mind. When you're not thinking, the best ideas come from when you're falling asleep and you're in that state, or you're in a meditative state, or you're in a hyper-present state in the forest and you hear birds. You're back to that nature stimulus where your cortisol is going down, and allowing for that part of you to just come out, the creativity.
Yeah.
So it makes sense.
Yeah.
It happens to me too.
Yeah.
How often are you out in nature?
In the summer, I'm out in nature several times a week, like doing hikes and things. But in the winter, less often, just because it's harder to get out there. But I feel it. Like I feel when I'm not out there. If it's been like 2 weeks and I haven't gone on a hike or been out, outside, I start getting like a little stir crazy.
Yeah, me too. I feel it. Every Wednesday is dedicated for Christians' alone nature time.
Yes.
That's my alone nature day.
I love that.
And I'm out. I'm out of the house. I do a workout and I'm out. No one bothers me. My phone's off.
Yep.
Everyone knows if they can't reach me, I'm doing some crazy hippie stuff with my shoes off.
And the alone part for me is key.
Yeah.
Like I love hiking by myself. I love just, I don't necessarily want to bring friends with me.
Right.
Because otherwise I'm just talking to them and I'm not actually like focusing on anything. So.
It's true. I do some hikes with friends, but it's very different. And I would actually challenge all the viewers and listeners, very different when you are all alone forest bathing.
Yeah.
Because not only do you get the inspiration, but you really connect back to nature.
And turn off your phones and turn off, don't bring your earbuds. And
No, you don't need music, yeah.
Yeah, the only noise I make is either talking to myself or I yell at the bears and try to make sure there's, hey bears, don't come to me. 'Cause
Okay.
There's bears near me.
There is bears near you.
So I try to scare the bears away.
Let me tell you something. I was last Wednesday, I was up in the Topanga Mountains over here. I did my hike, I was by myself, I overlooked the ocean. Beautiful. You see like Malibu and Santa Monica, all the way down to like Santa Monica, Manhattan Beach. And I'm walking back, I get in my car and I just drive a few feet and a giant mountain lion. Have you ever seen a mountain lion?
Is that the same as a bobcat?
No, it's
They're different, they're bigger.
Way bigger.
I've never seen them, we have them, but I haven't ever seen one.
I've never seen a mountain lion in my life. And my high beam, my high beams are on because it's really, really like windy roads. And this mountain lion just runs past me and it looked like an African safari lion.
Oh my God.
And I couldn't believe that these things exist.
Is that big?
And it was huge. And I put my brake and I'm like, holy shit, what the hell?
Oh my God.
as a side note, my first experience with a mountain lion was last week, and I still think about it every morning when I wake up.
We had a bobcat in our front yard this last week, which is smaller, but still a little bit scary.
Yeah, I've seen bobcat. I've seen them.
Yeah.
They're actually cute. They're like more cat-like.
Yeah.
This is more like heavy,
Like
big lion.
lion-like.
It was like, be careful with those.
Okay.
Okay, so now you're in Portland and you're working with hormones. You're getting a lot of people, men and women, who are suffering with hormone imbalances. And how's it manifesting in them? What are you seeing?
It could be anything from fatigue, weight gain, lack of motivation, low sex drive, like lack of libido. With men, it was oftentimes low libido, but also like a lot of just like mood, like depression, like feeling kind of blah was something else that people would come in for. And they didn't really know what was going on, but they just like, something is wrong. Like, I don't know what it is, but something's wrong.
So how helpful were you doing bioidentical hormones? How helpful are they? What are they, first of all, and how helpful were they for the folks that you were treating?
So basically, they're just hormones that are identical. The chemistry is identical to the hormones that your body makes. So it's testosterone, it's estrogen, progesterone, those kinds of things, thyroid hormone, and so we just based on testing and based on symptoms, we just replace those hormones. So if you have someone, for instance, a guy who has really low testosterone, and maybe he's also diabetic, and maybe he's also overweight, because those things all go together. Certainly you can tell that guy, hey, go out in nature and lift heavy things, and get some sun and work out more, and get some sleep. And you can give him all the lifestyle advice, and those are all good things. But if that guy is so unmotivated because his testosterone is like in the toilet, it's really hard to do some of those other changes.
Yeah.
And so so we would replace testosterone with testosterone, or sometimes give medications just to boost his own testosterone. And then that gives him enough motivation to start doing the lifestyle stuff too. So, I've had arguments with people who are like, well, just tell him to be healthier. And I think that's easier said than done when you're in a place that you just don't have the energy, or you just don't have the drive, or you're just depressed. So when you give these hormones back, it kind of gives the people, like, it makes them feel like they're more alive again.
Yeah.
And it's life-changing. I still see hormone patients, but those first patients, I loved when they would come in. Would often be like this woman, my patient was often a woman who would come in and she was like grumpy and angry and kind of yelling at me a little bit. And like, she's like throwing her purse down.
Yeah.
Everything sucks. And, I'm just like, oh my gosh, this person's horrible. But then I'll start on hormones and she'll come back like 3 months later and she's like smiling and happy and grateful. And it's a whole different person. Like, it's a whole different person.
The mood stuff.
Yeah, the mood stuff is huge.
And I totally understand. You got to get them out of that hole that they feel that they're in. Because if you're depressed, you're not going to want to work out.
Right.
You're not going to want to cook for yourself.
Right.
Right. So it's really powerful. I've seen the power of bioidentical hormones, especially in postmenopausal women.
Yes.
It's like
huge.
Day and night. It's day and night. And because from what I understand, most women don't progressively just ease into menopause. It's like boom. Exactly. And they're suffering so much with it. And I know there's women listening right now, they're like, oh wait, that's me. So they can really look into this stuff, right?
Absolutely.
Powerful. Yeah. So then, when do you move to Utah and do what you're doing?
So towards the end of my Portland era, I started becoming interested in regenerative medicine. So like platelet-rich plasma, and then eventually stem cells and things like that. And I wanted to start learning somehow, like to do procedures with these things. And these are all, things that either from your own body or maybe not, but essentially trying to get your own body to heal itself, using different kinds of injections. And I became really interested in skin health and aesthetics and hair restoration and sexual health using these other modalities. And I ended up moving to Utah just because of the mountains. They drew me there. And I sought out education by one of the local guys who was already known for doing stem cell procedures, Dr. Harry Adelson, who's he's a naturopath.
Yeah, naturopath.
And he's in Utah and had been doing stem cells forever. So I kind of sought him out. I kind of pestered him until he let me come work with him.
Really?
And yeah, I did. I just kind of kept showing. He was super nice, but I just kind of kept showing up. So then I started learning about how to use stem cells and eventually exosomes and PRP and all of these things for cosmetic purposes and for sexual purposes as well.
Okay, there's a lot of people right now who are like, what words did you just say?
I know, I just spilled a lot of words out there.
So, and a lot of us have heard about stem cells. I know that. I for the last time I was in practice, I worked in a partly stem cell clinic. The other doctors were doing it. So I think it's amazing stuff. Amazing. But I'd love to learn more about like what is regenerative medicine? Is it like if I break my leg, I can come to you and regenerate my leg? So how does that work? And some of the modalities you said, like stem cells, you mentioned the word exosomes. What are they and how do they work?
So I'll start with that question.
Yeah.
So stem cells, they're the cells in your body that are responsible for the upkeep of all the different tissues and organs. And so as you get older or as you have disease or as you have injuries, the stem cells are the cells that essentially send out signals to help repair those areas and keep everything working. And what happens is as we get older, our stem cells become less active. You still have them, we all still have them, but the older we get, the less active they are. So they're not sending out as many signals to repair. And you can think of it, if I were to cut my arm as a 40-something-year-old woman, it would take me, maybe a week to heal.
Right.
Versus my 12-year-old son, he cuts his arm and it's healed like the next day.
Yeah.
It's stem cells. Like he's got so many great active stem cells. So what we're doing with stem cell medicine or with regenerative medicine in general is we're using different modalities to try to trigger your own stem cells into becoming more active. And so we can do that with things like PRP, which is we just get that from blood. It's just platelets concentrated from your blood, which can speak to your stem cells if we inject them. Or we can take your stem cells from like your bone marrow or your fat and isolate your own stem cells and put them somewhere else, like in your arthritic knee or in your neck pain, or in your skin to help with skin rejuvenation. Or we can use other sort of newer things like growth factors or exosomes, which are like the kind of the action arm of a stem cell. They have a lot of the same components that they come from stem cells. And those will come from other sources like placental tissue. So, but the whole idea is we're injecting something into your body to try to activate your own stem cells into becoming more active to try to heal and rejuvenate that tissue.
Working with your own natural processes.
Exactly.
Right, to heal the tissue. And it's been booming. So, like, I've heard stem cells, I didn't hear about it when I was in school, and then I came out and people were talking about it, and now I'm like, whoa, everyone does it now?
It's a thing, yeah.
Is it, one, are they safe? And how regulated is it? Are there other docs out there doing crappy stem cells?
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of people are like, oh, this sounds really good. I've had this injury that's been nagging me, arthritic knee.
Right.
How do we look for reputable people like you?
It is tough because it is a booming field, as you said, and there's a lot of people who say they're doing stem cells, but they're not. For instance, like right now in the United States, we're allowed to use stem cells from bone marrow from the patient. We're not allowed to use stem cells like from umbilical cord cells or things like that. We're not allowed. We have all kinds of regulations on what we can and can't use. Also, a lot of the products that some doctors are using, they'll say they're stem cells, but they're actually not. Like they're not live cells. They're growth factors. They're proteins that might have come from stem cells, but they're not live cells. And so I think that that's tricky because people don't know, like I will say if you go to the doctor and they pull a vial off a shelf and say this is a stem cell that they're going to give you, it's not.
Okay.
So that's one thing.
Okay.
It could be growth factors. It could be helpful. It could be exosomes.
Yeah.
But it's not a stem cell. And if it is, it's not legal because that's not allowed right here, in the United States. But getting stem cells from the patient and using them somewhere else is legal most of the time here still.
And that process from getting it, you said, goes right to the bone marrow or the fat, and you isolate them from there, and then you re-inject them.
Exactly, yeah. And we do it under sedation because we've learned that it actually is, if you cause the patient pain during the procedure, they have bad memories of this procedure and they tend to not heal as well, which is very interesting.
Which is really
Which
interesting.
makes sense though,
Yeah.
right? Like if you're creating a big cortisol dump, a big stress response during the procedure, which is very kind of inflammatory, and then you also have this negative sort of thought pattern around it, then probably aren't going to do as well as if that didn't happen.
Yeah.
So we sedate people for the most part, and my procedures just focus on skin, hair, and sexual health. So I say I do skin and sex.
Skin and sex, yeah.
But my partner, Harry Adelson, he does all the musculoskeletal injections.
Right.
So for chronic pain primarily, we're not going to do anything for, if you break your leg today, we wouldn't touch it for, we let it start to heal on its own because you have your own stem cells and they're going to be active. It's more like chronic pain that like you've used up the stem cells in that area because that pain has been there for so long,
Yeah.
that inflammation's been there for so long.
Yeah, that makes sense. So to the skin.
Yeah.
A lot of us love beauty, man. Like, I want to stay young.
You're beautiful already.
Thank you. Thank you. Inside and out. And you are too. But I want to be glowing all my life, right?
Yeah.
What role do stem cells have in keeping us young and supple and rich and glowing and radiant, all of those things that people really like. It's a billion-dollar industry behind it.
It is. Well, I mean, as you get older, after the age of 25 or so, your stem cells in your face, in your fibroblasts, they stop making collagen or as much. They stop making elastin, which is what gives your face like the bounce back. And they also stop making hyaluronic acid, which is what gives your skin moisture. So you basically lose, these main 3 components of skin starting at age 25, and it gets worse as you get older. And so the stem cell therapies, the things that activate your stem cells, and that's not just stem cells. You can use lasers to activate your stem cells. You can use PRP, you can use microneedling. Like there are a lot of different things will do it, but when you activate your stem cells in your face, then you increase the production of those things. So it's really about creating healthier skin. It's not the same as like Botox or fillers or a facelift or things like that. It's more about creating healthier skin. So it's good for the glow. It's good for kind of texture and tone and color and improving scars, but it's not as good at like tightening your skin, for instance. And it's not as good at filling your skin. Like if you have like volume loss in your cheeks, which happens as we get older, or if you're kind of thin, then these therapies aren't as good for that because you actually just need more volume. You need more fat or filler in your skin.
I see. For people who do use the stem cells for, you said glow especially, how long does it last? Is it for a while? Is it, I got to come back to you next week? How does that work?
It depends on what else you're doing.
I see.
Because you're not going to stop aging. So I am a big fan of sunblock on your face. There's a lot of arguments about the pros and cons of sunblock, but I think for anti-aging purposes of your skin on your face, daily sunblock like a zinc oxide is important. But so if you're not using sunblock or if you're not using good products on your skin and your diet's not good and your stress is high, or you're postmenopausal where you don't have estrogen to keep your skin healthy, then anything that I do isn't going to last as long. But if you're doing all the things, then maybe a year to a year and a half.
Which is a while.
Which is pretty good, yeah.
And most people who I would think seek out you and your services, or at least listen, have a good lifestyle already.
Yeah.
They have an idea. So it's a really good foot that they're on already. You mentioned about Botox. How do you feel about it? Is it? I actually never talked about Botox on the show.
No.
Yeah. And I love that we have a beauty expert here. One, is it safe? Is it sustainable long term? What's your opinion on the risks? How do you feel about it?
I think that Botox is pretty safe. And I think that it has its place. I think it can be done properly. It's basically stopping the muscles from moving. So there are certain lines and wrinkles that we have that are just because those muscles move over and over again. We call those dynamic wrinkles. And there's not really a way to stop those lines from happening if you don't stop the muscles from moving. And you can make them move less, like you can make them just kind of barely contract. Yeah. It doesn't have to be like a frozen face thing. It's so widely used that I think if there were serious concerns with it, we would see much more published. I mean, there's been a couple little papers here and there, but thousands and millions of people use Botox, right? Or similar other products. And for the most part, it's pretty safe. I think it's pretty safe, and it's hard to really inflict serious damage with a neurotoxin like that. Yeah, which makes sense. I always wondered, I've never used Botox. I've been blessed with Latin genes. Yeah, right? Good skin.
My dad and mom have had wonderful skin all their lives. My dad looks very young for his age. He's 72.
Oh.
So I've never even looked at it, but I know a lot of people who use it.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because aside from, okay, let's say it's safe, there's like a facial recognition thing that happens with me that I can tell if someone has it, even if it's the most subtle. You know how like human beings, we're so used to even, and we don't consciously know, but we're so used to like the fine movements, the motor movements in the face. I'm like, something doesn't feel right here. I'm like, I feel like less connected to this person. I don't know why.
Oh, that's so funny.
There has to be, I never looked it up, but there has to be studies on like the social impact of like communication with.
That's good. I haven't seen those studies, but that's interesting.
I like studies like that.
I mean, there are definitely people, and patients will say this to me, and I've had myself where it's been too much Botox, and where I feel like I can't react appropriately.
Really?
And certain patients will have that too. Like they're like, I'm used to like putting my, like getting angry and my
The whole
forehead
face
wrinkles, and my
yeah.
kids know I'm mad because
Yeah.
my forehead's wrinkling, and now they don't know I'm mad unless I
Yeah.
scream at them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's definitely that piece of it. I think that's interesting. I haven't considered that,
I'd
but
love to look at that.
I'm sure that's a thing.
Super interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, skin, one, sex. To what capacity? Well, I've seen some really cool posts that you've put on your
Yeah.
Instagram before. I've reposted a few actually
Oh,
throughout
good.
since I've known you. But how do you work with sexual health?
So it started because I started learning these regenerative therapies, these stem cells, these PRP. You know, I learned that I could use them for different things. And what happened was a lot of these hormone patients who they would come to me, you know, with hormonal problems, and they're like in this like survival state, and they're really unhappy, and you know all these things. And they would come back like 3 or 4 months later, and they would say, "Okay, my mood is getting better. I'm losing weight. I'm starting to feel better. And now, can you help me with either my skin, my hair, or my sex life?" And it was always one of those 3 things. And so I started kind of seeing those as like this sort of next level of health. Like, you know, you have to get all the foundational stuff dialed in first. But then once you do, people care about those things.
Yeah.
Like whether we want to judge them, that's good or bad, I think it doesn't matter because they care. And if they care, then I care. And so I started looking into like, you know, how is sexual health approached currently? Like who talks about it, you know, what are the doctors doing, what are the therapies available, and what could we do that's better and different? And how can we look at it from sort of an integrative approach and a regenerative approach, and you know, not just throw some Viagra at you and you're done, but like what else can we do? So I became fascinated by it because it's such an interesting field of medicine.
Yeah, and people are talking more and more about it. I always think about naturopathic like principles. The body stops caring about the skin and the hair and your sex life or your sexual health or your libido in order to really work on the deeper stuff. But like, it's exactly what you said. The people who have healed and feeling better, they go, "Oh, now my skin and my hair, and I want to be more sexually, have more vitality, you know?"
Right.
And it makes sense because the body's healing. For me, it's like a big barometer, especially my sexual health, where I am.
Right.
I know I'm not sleeping well, eating well, or stressed if I'm just feeling like, bleh.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, I think of sexual health as being kind of like the middle of like all of these other types of health, right? Like you have to have your social health in order, your relationships. You have to have your physical health in order. You have to have your emotional, mental health in order. Your spiritual health. Like it's basically all of these things have to come together in the right way to really be in a sexually sort of satisfying, you know, partnership or relationship. And so if your sex life is off, whether that's alone or with a partner, like this is any kind of sex, if something's off, then it points you in some other direction. Like it's not usually like a genital problem. Like it's usually like something else is going on. Your hormones, you're not sleeping well, you're not eating well, you're having too much stress. You know, there's all kinds of other things that influence your sex life.
So if I come into your office and I go, my sex life is blah, and I'm blah, and I just feel like, remember Winnie the Pooh Eeyore?
Yeah.
We're just dragging, and like kind of like that. Do we do stem cells? Like how do we work together? Like,
So I
what is
have
some of the stuff?
I have a couple of different. I have 2 different offices, but the one office is a big integrative medicine office, and so in that office we would start with, you know, a history, an exam, do all those kind of things, and then probably get some labs. You know, check all your hormones, check your thyroid, check all your labs, your liver, your kidney, your cholesterol. Like, are you at risk for heart disease? Like, you know, there's so many things that can cause sexual problems that we have to kind of cast a wide net. And then, you know, we kind of rule out if it's something like sexual trauma or something that needs to go see like a therapist, then that's not me. But you know, get you resources for that. And then, you know, once we've kind of dialed in maybe where it's coming from, whether it's, you know, age related or whatever else, then we can start talking about what are some therapy options. And stem cells are one of them, but not the first one. I would, you know, think about other things like shockwave therapy, for instance, is great for men. Medications can be effective. You know, there's penis pumps. Like there's all kinds of things you can do before you're putting a needle in your penis.
What the heck is shockwave therapy, first of all?
It sounds pretty brutal, but it's not. It's actually just using high intensity sound waves. So it's acoustic wave therapy is the other name of it. Gainswave is the company that kind of made this, marketed this in the US. But it's just it's a device we use in the office, and we essentially just we do these sound waves into the penis. We can do it in women too, actually. But you're increasing stem cell recruitment, you're increasing blood vessel formation, and you're increasing local nitric oxide, which is going to bring in more blood. So you do a series of treatments over the course of like a month, and we see huge improvements.
By waves.
Like erectile dysfunction is what we're
Yeah,
seeing with
but
that.
by waves.
By waves, yeah.
I love that you're using wave medicine.
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
like-
it sounds like a jackhammer. Like, it's not necessarily like the quiet, like
yeah.
serene, like thing that you might be
Ocean
thinking
waves.
about.
We're not thinking ocean waves.
We're not talking about ocean waves.
Yeah, we're thinking more MRIs.
We're talking about like a jackhammer on your penis, but not as painful.
Okay, gotcha.
I'm totally selling it right now.
It's fine. I know you are, but the lengths men will go to.
Right.
Right?
And it works. It works in probably 75 to 80% of men.
Wow.
Who have, and we have a lot of patients, probably half our patients don't have any actual like erectile dysfunction. They're just like, well, I'm 40. And, as we get older, things change a little bit. And I'd love to have it be back like it was when I was 20 or 30. And, you're actually creating a regenerative process. Like you're making your body kind of heal itself, which is, I think, the best part about it.
Is it the O shot, is it called?
Uh-huh.
What is that?
So the O shot is the orgasm shot. It's basically just using platelet-rich plasma, and for women, injecting the clitoris and the anterior vaginal wall, kind of like the G-spot area.
Wow, with a needle.
With a needle. Yeah.
Of platelet-rich plasma.
Yeah, and we also do a P shot, or that's sort of the brand
P-shot,
name of it,
yeah.
which is where you inject the penis with PRP. And then I also will use in those procedures, like, I used to just use PRP, but now I'll oftentimes use the stem cells or the exosomes or kind of these higher level growth factors and things, but injecting those areas after we numb it first. It's not as bad as it sounds.
Yeah, for sure. But it's recruiting stem cells to bring more blood flow. For the women, is it for more sensitivity?
The mechanism seems to be mostly blood flow, mostly increasing new blood vessel formation, so angiogenesis. We can help with sensitivity. We can help with, in men, with actual just erections and firmness and refractory period and things like that. And then sometimes in women, we can also help with stress urinary incontinence. So if you laugh or you jump and you run and you kind of have a little bit of urine leakage, super common. And this is something that's really easy. It's just a couple little injections, and it can often help because you're building up that tissue underneath the urethra.
I love that. There's a lot of men I know who listen to this too, who are 40 and above. They're like, interesting.
Yeah.
It's because when I heard about the P shot, I was like, a P shot? I was like, no.
It sounds bad.
It sounds a little painful, but you're sedated or it's anesthetic?
That one you're
anesthetic.
not usually sedated. You can be, but not, you don't. It hurts a lot less than you think it's going to.
Okay.
It's like a little pinch.
It's a little pinch.
And I say that as someone who does not have a penis, but I've done many of these.
and no one's jumping to the ceiling.
No, and almost everyone afterwards says that wasn't that bad.
Okay. Now, a lot of this is around like the sensitivity or need for blood flow, erectile dysfunction, but libido is a big thing for men and women.
Yeah.
And you mentioned some of the things like running the labs, of course, but like what are some other things that you find maybe outside the labs? Like, oh, I have perfect labs and my libido is just like, oh, I just can't.
I mean, a lot of it's just other lifestyle stuff going on. Like you said before, if you're not sleeping, if you're super stressed, we know that stress affects your hormones a lot. And what's interesting about sex is you actually need to be in the sort of rest and relaxed. You need to be in that parasympathetic
Completely.
state.
Yeah.
I mean, for everything to work, like literally for the blood to stay where it goes and all of that. And so if you're coming at it from this like always stressed out, fight or flight, high cortisol state, which a lot of people live in that state like all the time, it's really hard to transition from that to having sex.
Big time.
Especially for women, but for everyone.
And sensitive men.
And sensitive men.
I gotta do tantric breathing. I have to breathe.
Yeah.
Like literally like parasympathetic, like,
yeah.
Because for me, it's like 1 minute ago, I was still like on a call being like, you need to do this, this, and this.
Exactly.
We gotta get this done.
Yeah.
Even if like work stops, I need like 4 hours of relaxation to get into my body.
Yeah.
So, but the breathing really, really helps. And I understand a lot of women are still like in their heads from their day or whatever they're thinking about. They just can't get into the body in that parasympathetic mode. And of course, we're not activated, at all.
Yeah, it's hard to kind of force that if you're not in the right frame of mind. So I think that's breathing is great, breathing exercises and yoga and meditation and journaling and all the things that you can do, walks on the beach, whatever works for you to just get into a place where you're not overwhelmed with the world.
We need to start. I think my favorite thing that you said, aside from this whole interview, is sexual health being right there. And there are so many of us, they're like, oh, I'm going to biohack and I'm going to look at all the things for longevity and physical health. And then there's people meditating all day and doing yoga and like, my spiritual health is on point, right? Or seeing a therapist or journaling and my mental, emotional health. But, you know, aside from like the taboo that we have here in America, we don't even want to talk about sexual health.
Yeah.
You know, I have a sexual therapist that I talk to and we chat and I'm like, this is what I feel. You know, how do we navigate this? Because the aspect of like past trauma that you were going into is huge.
Right.
A lot for men, a lot of the way we see sex through porn and just, you know, society, and women too.
Yeah.
And we're holding on to like these past traumas and we bring it to the bedroom.
Yeah.
We need so much healing sexually because I believe people are in their most power when they have their sexual health healed.
I think so too, and I think that, like you mentioned before, that sexual health is kind of a barometer, you know, of a lot of different types of health, and it is important. And I say that as, you know, you don't have to have a partner. Like a lot of people are always like, well, I don't have a partner. What
So
am I
does it
gonna
matter?
do?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Like, it's not about reproduction. That's a whole different thing. It's not about like, you know, like what you learned in 5th grade. It's about like, is my body sexually healthy? Like, can I, you know, have sex, whether it's alone or with someone else, and go through all of those things, because there's so many beneficial hormones. I feel like sex, whether it's, you know, alone or with someone else, it's kind of like a self-soothing exercise. Like, you know, you have all the stress, you have all these things going on in your life, but if you can release, you know, dopamine and oxytocin and serotonin and endorphins and all of these like really great hormones, which you do during sex, then you have this like immediate sort of healing that happens, and then it, you know, as well as long-term consequences. But it's really good for you, and we can all do it.
Healthy sex life.
Yeah.
Healthy sex life with yourself and another.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And you mentioned those beautiful endorphin, the dopamine, all those neurotransmitters that are released that are healing for our own mental and our physical health.
Right.
So we got to get sexual health 2022 #1 for our society.
Yes.
We got to
Let's do
step
it.
up there on the mountain. Amy, anything else interesting that you want to share or that you're doing that's in your heart? Whatever you want to share with the audience, now's the time.
Oh gosh. I have a lot of other projects. I have a sexual health project that I'm actually doing that'll be coming out in a few months. I'll share that with you and your audience later on.
Okay.
But that's something I'm doing, and I'm also doing a project in the longevity space that I'm excited about as well. That's really hopefully going to kind of re-educate or redefine how we talk about kind of longevity and make it a little bit more attainable for a lot of people. So I have that, that'll come out in a few months as well. So I'll let you guys know about both of those.
I love that. How do you define longevity?
I define longevity as really being about health span, you know, not so much lifespan, but how long are you living a healthy life where you feel good, where you're interactive, where you have community and you feel like you're living with purpose, not so much just how long are you alive.
Exactly. I love that. I love that. Where do people find you?
So I'm pretty active on Instagram.
Uh-huh.
It's Dr. Amy B. Killen. I also have like multiple websites, but the easiest one is probably Dr. Amy Killen. And then I have several clinics. So if a clinic is of interest, just go to my main website and I can kind of direct you to the other ones.
And the website is what?
DrAmyKillen.com.
Okay. Everyone check it out. You can find her online on Instagram, at one of her clinics, on the dance floor till 4 a.m., whatever it is.
Salsa dancing.
Salsa dancing. Thank you all the way from Utah here, dropping some amazing gems for people. The work you're doing is keeping us healthy, living long, looking luscious and beautiful, hair, and we have the sexual energy and flow going because of you. We're inspired. Thank you so much.
Thank you.